Heyo. All right. So right now we're talking about Hell's Angels, the book by Hunter S. Thompson. Now, full disclosure, I have not. This is the first Hunter S. Thompson book I've read, and I have not seen the one in Leaving Las Vegas or whatever. I have not seen the movie actually, which is a weird outpoint. I will remedy shortly. I did see Rum Diaries, weirdly enough, which is about Hunter S. Thompson. I will say this, I liked about half the book. I felt like the book was interesting, it was suggested, and I felt like it was so, more than half, maybe three-quarters of the book, I was like, cool, I'm getting into this world. And he does this thing where, like, he invests you in these people, and then, like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's my experience. Here's what actually happened. Here's the blah. And it feels almost chaotic and weird. And it was interesting because at the time, he was very much integrated with them. Like, was not necessarily living with them, but associated with them. And he was writing articles about them. And then was, I guess, inspired or suggested to write a book. And then he wrote a book about him. And I gotta admit, I was really flustered because it felt like half a book or even three-quarters of a book. Because at the end, it was just like, F these guys, I'm done. And I was like, what? The equivalency of, like, talking to fire eaters or cannibals. Here's a really good bad example, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna interview a bunch of cannibals, and then there comes a day where they're like, you have to eat this, like, you have to eat this, and you're like, yeah, I'm done. Now, granted, that's gross. I don't think I would want to do that either. I know I wouldn't want to do that. I don't know what I would do in that scenario. I'd like to say no, but if you went to do that, you got involved in all that, and then when it comes back to you, and to be fair, I guess to be more accurate, because what happened at the end, spoiler alert, but whatever, was, like, he got beat up by a bunch of Hell's Angels for kind of no apparent reason, for something petty and small and stupid. And I guess he just was like, it was the last straw for him. He's like, I'm over it. And granted, I'm looking at this outside of it. I wasn't there. But I'm like, you were inundated with these people for like 2 years. You learn all their history. You learn all this stuff about them. And then you got beat the F up. It wasn't even that bad. Like, I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. You had a Hell's Angel who was asleep in your car. But because of the circumstances, you decided, like, yeah, no, F this, guys, I'm done. And that's how the book felt. Like, I had a literal moment of, like, wait, what? Because I'm listening to the audiobook, and I had this moment of, like, wait, that's it for the audiobook? Like, to me, what a proper finish would have been was something that was, and maybe Hunter died before this happened, and that's why. But, like, supposedly, Hell's Angels, like, I feel like I need to read another book. I'm like, what happened after this? Like, I got it that they peaked at this point. He covers their rise and their peak and their decline. And he doesn't really cover, like, where, to me, how I found out about Hell's Angels outside of, like, Joe Rogan was Hell's Angels did security for Woodstock. And I'm like, you're not going to talk about that? Like, how did that happen? How does that correlate with this other stuff? But I will say what he talks about is the nuts and bolts of the Hells Angels and how they came to be and why they are what they are. And frankly, it's a really interesting parallel. If you watch The Sons of Anarchy and you read this book, you can kind of see this, like, cross-reference thing that I feel works. And I mean, I love and hate Sons of Anarchy. I love it as a show. I hate that it fell into this trap of, like, we have to constantly have more stuff, so we're gonna, like, our guys will succeed and then they, like, fail. Like, it literally was like 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back, it felt, for the show. And sometimes it was like 2.5 steps back. So I'm like, ugh. This is the same thing with Walking Dead, where I'm like, we're not progressing. Like, we are technically, like, things are moving, but you're not really progressing because you have to have a digression to progress. Which, granted, that works in life. Like, this is true. Like, you work and then you have the bills to pay. So it's like, cool, but like, you're always, in theory, you're making more money than you're spending, so you're always progressing, and you have a different problem and you have to deal with that, and that's how life works. Why can't you just do that? Instead, you have to make it this like whole thing, and it's very, very frustrating. So I like the book. I read it, I listened to it, I was like, okay, cool, I'm down, this is cool. But I was frustrated because at parts I felt alive and like in tune, and I'm like, I wanna own a bike. I wanna ride. This sounds so romantic, and he does a terrific job of explaining the why of the romance. But then that is separated from the people who do it. And like, while he did a great job painting them, it was very clear that he didn't know them. He didn't really care to know them. Like, he knew their names, he knew their wives. He kind of knew the ins and outs of them on a surface level, really. But it didn't seem like he really, at least it didn't come across to me like he really talked to their wives and talked to their kids, and like, how do they deal with, how do you live this life? How does this work? Because that's how I was like, how does this work? You're kind of just making these guys out to be just total degenerates, and maybe that's exactly what they were, and maybe that was exactly the point. But it was so fascinatingly frustrating because I felt like I got half a book and half a story, and that was upsetting to me. It was like, okay, well, cool. I'm glad I read a Hunter S. Thompson book. I will read more of his. I'm gonna read Rum Diaries and the Vegas one later on my to-do list. But just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a book worth reading because there's moments of it that's almost poetic and beautiful. He talks about a part of America and a part of a society in America, and things that happen in police force. Like, I do feel Hell's Angels had an effect on America as a whole in this weird way. Like, they were like a faux boogeyman that caused certain other things to happen. And it was this like odd distraction at a certain time. And so Hunter covers that, and then he kind of like, I'm off to do other things. And that's fine. I don't know the author very well. Maybe that's part of the course. So I don't know if I'd suggest it. I thought it was an interesting read, but I didn't love it. I was just like, okay, I feel like I know more about how the motorcycle world, at least from the chopper standpoint and all this stuff and the patches, how that really kind of originated, but not... Like, I don't know if he really, like, it was a good primer, if you will, to like introduce you to the world, and if you want deep details, I don't think this is the book for you on that. But it is a good primer, and he clearly was like integrated into them for several years in like their heyday. But I think he got disenchanted, and to be fair, there's a lot to be disenchanted by. Like, he was very evident in his thing. He was like, yeah, no, these are not good people. Like, objectively bad. The fact that one of them was known as, like, a pedophile. Like, that was his, like, thing. Oh, whoa, Bob, this guy, the pedophile. Like, or the rapist or whatever. And it's like, well, that's not a good moniker to go by. Like, in established society, like, it's supposedly, like, no, bad. And minimally in high-class society, I would imagine, it's like hidden and covered unless you run into someone who's like, oh, I could deal with a little bit of this, which is disgusting. But yeah, objectively, in normal society, it's like if someone has a moniker, it's like, why? What? And so I feel like they were rough, extremely rough around the edges, and that was kind of their shtick. And yeah, I think that has value in that you need an outside source to measure yourself up to. And like, we're not them. Don't do that. That's bad. And maybe there's value in that. Maybe just the fact that they existed in small numbers but created such a huge footprint positively infected American society in that time. I don't really know. But I do think it's fascinating. I do think it's interesting to listen to, read, however you want to consume it. So yeah, that's my book review for now. And sorry it's been so long of a delay, but I love you all. Plymouth out. Talk to you soon.